Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and earlier, I guess yesterday, whatever at this point, it's like 2 in the morning, Blizzard announced a handful of buffs to some classes coming for this week's patch. Now, among them, there were some Warlock buffs. If you're a Destro fan or Destro Demo fan, hate to break it to you, nothing. But there were some pretty big AF buffs that came in, so we're going to be looking at that today. Just honestly getting right into it. Now, when I saw these buffs, I had to go back in game and check how things were, like if they had been pushed to PTR. They have indeed been pushed to PTR. I heard some classes have not been, but Warlock and Affliction has. Now, Affliction's main issue, well, I mean, obviously, its damage has been subpar, in single target for a while. Initial sims I had seen had AF around 2.1 million, give or take, when it came to this patch on PTR with the tier set working. Destro was around 2.3. I was estimating Demo around 2.4 based on dummy testing and all that, which I think I have a file somewhere. Yeah, so this was the numbers we had in testing. Very rough looking at testing last week. Just some notes I made to myself here. AF was sitting around 1.4, 1.37 with Soul Harvester. Hellcaller 1.38. Demo around 1.65, 1.68, around like the 3.5 minute mark coming out of CDs. Hellcaller Destra around 1.6, 1.55, give or take. And obviously we've known for a while the Hellcaller profile, very, very good at this coming raid tier. But it's basically been just a Destro tier because, well, AF has been bad. These changes, they changed that. So, off the bat here, Summon Dark Glare has been adjusted. Dark Glare damage increased by 40%. Now, this is just a straight up buff from what I understand to Dark Glare. Like, not even like they just said, hey, Dark Glare, 40%. Do more. Now, on top of that, each damage or time effect you have active on the current target increases their damage by 45. Was 25. Their damage, meaning like, Dark Glare effects and all stuff, right? Now, I went in game on PTR to clarify, and this is indeed already in. You can see 45 here, was 25. So Dark Glare receiving a substantial buff. This is going to mean like Dark Glare for your cooldowns, being 2-minute based, is going to have a lot more burst tied to it. Whether it's like single target or AOE based, this buff does indeed affect visionary and things, which, increases damage to Dark Glare by 70, and also does more damage here, all that. Dark Glare, a lot more powerful. Now, on top of all that, things get better and start to compound upon themselves with your new tier set. Focus Malignancy has been adjusted. Malefic Rapture deals 40% increased damage to targets. Was here. The target suffering from Unstable Affliction was 25. Now, this is a big one, because number one, AF damage in single target has been very subpar. The Dark Glare change will help obviously increase there. Malignancy is essentially a talent you can buff that will directly increase AF's single target. There's no AoE implications there, or there wasn't until this tier set. This tier set, the one that procs jackpots and gives you haste and all that kind of stuff, whenever you end up procking this in AoE, I'll even show you when this is done here. When you end up procking this in AoE, all these mobs that have UA on them here, and these two back here where it procced way behind me, they all also get the Focus Malignancy modifier. So I have a pack, I'll actually play it right here from the dungeon we ran a bit ago. When it procs multiple times, when you cast your Dark Glare and apply three UAs with one reactive to 3 extra mobs, 4 total, then it procs again and applies 3 more to 3 different mobs, then it procs again and applies 3 more, so you have 10 UAs rolling. All 10 mobs have this 40% modifier on them, versus what was just 1 previously. Brother, get them both. Don't be scared now. Get them both. Come on. I should move my UA, actually, but it's fine. I get to solo this pack. See, we're just trading packs that we solo. It's very easy. It's a very simple process. Very, very simple process. Very simple process. Okay? Very simple process. Now we're caught up. We're still a little behind, but I mean, it is what it is. In AoE, there obviously is some single target implications here. AF was pretty subpar in single target, so that's a bit of a help there. Now, the other big one here, Unstable Affliction. When this spreads an AoE on your tier set, I mean, just in general, UA was increased by 30%. This is probably the buff that UA's needed for a long time. What it's needed roughly to get it up above Agony in, damage when it comes to single target breakdowns. And we'll look at damage in a minute here too. UA is hitting very hard. This is a direct, I guess, an indirect buff, depending how you want to look at it, to Xavius' Gambit, which increases UA by 20%. You know, it's baseline 30 being buffed, so UA is even more relevant with Xavius' Gambit. Looking at your tier set here, obviously, the 50% increase to UA whenever it procs, whether it's on 1 target or 4 targets, also provides even more value. And when those targets die with UAs on them, they do indeed give shards. So there's a bit of quality of life there, which is not really a thing that AF has, but that's a thing. They have significantly buffed the value of Unstable Affliction in a lot of settings. So you're looking at single target slash AOE on the side with like visionary and cleaving and all that. Single target, but also AOE with tier set procs. Single target, but also AOE with tier set procs. Now the last two things are Shadow Bolt being buffed by 20% and Drain Soul being buffed by 20%. Now, as far as these buffs are concerned, I think they're actually really solid. Because there was an issue with AF tier set. I need to leave combat here. There's an issue with AF tier set and the Unstable Affliction part of it being pretty bad when it came to AoE and even in single target. And while it's still a bit awkward at times, like spreading AoE or having a jackpot proc at the end of a pack, yeah, a little bit awkward. Probably not optimal for like, you know, overall damage, right? So that could be a bit of a weird part when it comes to the tier set. But the fact that they buffed UA baseline does add more value to the tier set. The fact that they buffed Malignancy adds more value to the tier set, both in single target and AoE. And if you get back-to-back jackpot procs, like in that clip I showed you a minute ago, every mob is taking 40% more damage from your Raptures, which is your main spender in AoE. It can be utterly insane. That clip a minute ago was 18 million DPS, whatever, without Lust, without PI. Like, you can literally almost solo packs, right? Now, getting into more of these single target implications here. Once again, we talked about it being like roughly around here for Hellcaller and Diabolus Destro, 1.6, 1.55, Demo being like 1.65, 1.68, give or take, when I tested it last week. Affliction is doing a little better. So keep in mind that this is going to be a pretty big Hellcaller raid here. I'm going to play Soul Harvester here, just to show you guys how it looks in single target. There is one patchwork boss this tier. It is Sprocket Monger Lock and Stock. Everything else has cleave on it. It's non-single target. All that kind of stuff. Now I'm going to pull this point out of Dark Harvest and put it over here in Xavius Gambit. Oblivion still sucks, for those that are wondering. It's not good. But we're going to play Gambit here because of the UA buffs, and we're going to play Shadow Bolt here. Now for 2 reasons. Number 1, this thing often dies and goes into execute. I don't want to pad meters here with this. And number 2, Drain Soul is not proccing our tier set with its incremental ticks. Shadow Bolt is. So you're probably playing, you might very well end up playing Shadow Bolt this tier over Drain Soul in single target and a lot of settings because it can proc Jackpot and Drain Soul can't. So there's that. Let's grease up the old staff right here. I'll lube up, get the Alchemical Chaos Flask in me, even pop an Augie for it. All right, now, my gear here is not 730, it's 678, not the bugged gear. And let's play a dog here. Sure, I like dogs. Let's open up. Right, Bill, right? AC, cool, good to go. Reset this. Yep, let's do it. Unstable Affliction into a UA. Agony, Corruption. Gonna Shadow Bolt once here. Shadow's Embrace stacks at 2. Max when you're playing Shadow Bolt. I'm not potting here. I did not pot any of those tests in that notepad there. I didn't pot anything today. Off the bat, Affliction's burst is high. That is a jackpot proc from my Dark Lair into a second jackpot proc. Our damage is high. This is actually a bit lower than what I've seen most bursts for Affliction. I've seen a lot of AF's bursts be around 2.5, 2.6 million. I even hit almost 3 million earlier opening up one time in single target. A bit of it depends on procs and crits and RNG. But playing Soul Harvester, you have those 3 shards coming in whenever you Soul Rot, that like more Rapture-based damage window, which a Jackpot proc again here, once again further increasing UA's damage, and I can even pull up the meter right here and show you what UA is doing. Like it's up there, 13.3, 13.6, it's 13.5. It's a good bit of your damage. If you proc multiple Jackpots like back to back to back and have that effect rolling for a while, it becomes even stronger. I chained multiple Jackpots earlier with RNG, being RNG, and the damage from Unstable Affliction was number 1 in my overall breakdown. Seeding again here, popping this stuff, dumping some Raptures, need to catch my UA in a sec here, no big deal. Launch some of these for a TC proc. Got one. There you go, Rapture again, catch the UA. No Jackpot there, a little unfortunate, but if you look at the damage here, I'm sitting at like 1.6, 1.65, 1.63, give or take. This is about where Demonology was sitting as a Jackpot proc here. And the cool thing is that when it procs, my damage does increase a little bit. does a little better than last time. Not a crazy amount, but a bit more than last time. I can see it climb when I actually cast spells when it's proccing. But yeah, so like this is about where Demonology was sitting coming out of major CDs at 3-minute mark. Destruction was sitting around here even a bit lower than this coming out of major CDs as well. Affliction just up there. It's just doing solid damage. It looks to be likely our best spec in single target. Playing Soul Harvester if you want it in single target. Obviously Hellcaller has like those implications where it's very good in the raid, but you know, not your best option in single target, so you gotta see where that goes. Going into CDs again here, I'm gonna Dark Lair, pop my Trinket, just begin Rapturing. There's the jackpot from the Dark Lair, and watch the damage climb. 1.5, 1.56, 5.9, 6, 6.1, 6.3, 6.6, and honestly, like I said, this damage actually seems a bit low compared to what I've seen. I've seen like an average of 1.75, give or take, going into like this Dark Lair. There's a proc into a reproc right there. If you chain these jackpots like more often, I mean, your damage will be even higher. Now, I want to clarify too, when it comes to the overall breakdown, number one, UA is 13.5, Rapture 18.8. For Soul Harvester, Rapture is going to beat out UA. If you're playing Hellcaller, for example, swap to it here, if you're playing Absolute Corruption, which is not as good as Siphon Life for Hellcaller in single target, but it's close. If you're playing AC, I've seen Unstable Affliction as my #1 spell in single target, because you're not just playing these Rapture damage amps, you're also playing talents to amplify your damage more. For dots, like being UA, Contagion, Malediction, when you're playing Hellcaller to also amplify Wither more, which makes it very, very powerful. Now, in between testing this stuff here, I do want to say that when it comes to single target, this is not saying AF is the best spec in the game in single target. No, it's still middle of the pack. With previous testing, I mean, or previous sims I'd seen, AF was like 2.1 million, Destro was 2.3. I'd venture to guess Demo was like 2.4, probably give or take. I think AF's probably like 2.45, could be wrong. Demon's probably like 2.4, and Destro's like 2.3, probably right around there. Warrior was simming at 3.1 million until today, when they got a 4% aura nerf. 4% of 3.1 million. They're still really good. There are a lot of classes that are better than us in single target and raw sims overall. We're going to play Xavius here and No Death's Embrace again. But it's important to drive home that, once again, this raid tier looks to be a very strong spread cleave raid tier, a very strong Hellcaller based raid tier, which is why I think Blizz is a little hesitant to buff Destro. They should buff Chaos Bolt and fix the Rain of Fire thing. They didn't do it. I think it's because Hellcaller is a good raid profile this tier, and they're a bit leery of buffing Destro because of that. Not sure, but now, with this being the case, this makes Hellcaller... I'm going to go out on a limb here and say quite possibly the better choice for Warlock on a lot of fights this tier. If not the better choice, certainly just about, if not as good as Destro. Maybe if you want a bit more of like that, you know, snap burst profile with like putting up a Havoc and just launching Chaos Bolts and Shadow Burns, you play Destro. If ads will live long enough, you can get like relevant, you know, Rapture value and dot value and things out of like Hellcaller AF or AF in general, you might just play AF there, right? AF's burst looks stronger. It's burstier up front than Destro is, burstier than Demo is. Once again, I hit 2.6 million or so earlier, multiple times as Soul Harvester opening up in these dummies, right? And once again, it brings that Hellcaller profile, which is highly sought after this raid tier for the spread cleave. When it comes to like the one patchwork fight, Sprocket Monger, we'll see where it goes. I mean, like if Destro is close, Destro is like still probably the more mobile spec when it comes to like relevant spells you can cast in the move with Shadowburn and things. But honestly, like I said, Hellcaller AF just looks solid. I've been impressed with the damage, and this is just in single target. I mean, the AOE looking at M+ has been pretty insane. Like looking at that clip earlier. Yeah, now I do think overall, compared to most classes, like I said, the single target is a bit lacking. When it came to M+ earlier, running those keys with that Fire Mage and the Boom Can on stream, like, my single target output was definitely a bit less than theirs on basically every fight, or every, like, single target prio pack that we were doing. But if you're comparing, like, Destro's AoE profile to Affliction's AoE profile, I think Destro still has the higher, like, the high hand, the higher potential, higher overall for those like mass uncapped pulls where you can Cataclysm, apply Wither to everything, pop Malevolence, flare it up, and just nuke the world. You know, Affliction can do that with Seed of Corruption. You can, you know, apply Wither to any number of mobs, but you can't apply Agony to all of them. And Affliction's the missing quality of life when it comes to, you know, Vile Taint, not giving any kind of like relevant, you know, permanent Withers or permanent Agonies or anything of sort. So it makes things a little awkward. You have exceptionally strong burst and even like ridiculously strong burst potential if you're tier and things proc when you're CDing an M+. But, you know, outside of CDs, well, I'll show you here in a minute as well in AoE, outside of like Soul Rot and Vial-Taint windows and or Dark Lair being mixed in there as well, if you just have like a Vial-Taint going into a trash pack, your damage is non-existent. You're losing to the tank. So, much less consistent, but still, you know, well, not bad overall. And once again, even look at this damage here. Like, this is playing Hellcaller. This is Hellcaller Affliction, which is like, I mean, the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to like AF single target compared to Soul Harvester, still beating out the better pulls we had for Destro and Demo last time. Damage breakdown, UA is right there. 16.2 with Wither. Ahead of Wither, and honestly, we just came out of a Rapture window there. UA will be my #1 source of damage. Give it another 10 seconds here. Like, it's strong. It hits hard. And I feel like this is about as close as it can be to like being more of that dot-based profile that people have wanted for a long time, with Rapture still being your main spender in the game. Now, I was over here testing AoE on these 5 target dummies in Daggerzagalore, or sorry, Dorangal. Too many D-based cities in this game. And obviously, Destro's profile is very, very strong in mass AoE. Factor in 10 targets here, it'll probably maybe beat out AF. Inconsistent, you know, damage here, right? But AF has been sustaining the most damage here and bursting the highest out of, you know, any lock spec that I tested here. So we're going to look at this briefly in AoE. I do want to say that, I mean, I can't control the RNG of tier set procs. There's only 5 targets here. So if tier set, if it procs, I'll have a main target here with UA on it, and it will apply to 3 other mobs. So if my main UA target is this, it'll apply UA to here, here, and here. Now, in dungeons, if you're pulling like 2 packs at once, you'll probably have more than 5 targets here. So if it procced again on top of the first proc, it would also apply to like this mob and, you know, 2 more, basically like these 2, right? I can't really replicate that here. The clip from earlier does have that happening, but regardless, the burst is pretty good. So let's say we're going to open up here in M+. I only have 3 shards for this too. I can't really change that, but honestly, it won't really matter. It's still pretty good. We're going to precast a Seed into a UA, into a Haunt, like a normal pack setting up, getting rounded up. Vial-Taint into a Soul Rot. I'm going to Potion. I'm going to Dark Lair, Trinket, Malevolence. We're already at 4 million. Watch the damage here climb. 8 million, 9 million, 10 million. Rapture again, drain a little bit here. No TC proc, 10 million. There's one, 11 million basically. I mean, I hit 12 million a bunch of times earlier too. I feel like my damage in these videos isn't even as good as testing earlier, but you burst 12 million in 5 targets. Also, just a UA reproc right there. My weak aura is bugged. If you're using this on PTR, I need to fix it because it's not tracking all the UAs properly. I'll fix it for launch. Fresher's Agonies, awesome AF quality of life. Casting some Haunts here. 1 UA is falling. It's a tier set UA. We just sort of ignore that. Keep draining. I'm at 8 million DPS still, and I'm sustaining like 7 million relatively easily with 1 agony that fell a minute ago too. Like, the damage output and the consistency of how your damage is with AF and Wither and all that it's pretty strong. That 1 jackpot procced and carried me a little bit there, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I'll early refresh that UA there. Cast a Drain to fish for a TC proc for this window. Didn't get it. Doesn't really matter. We're at 6 million. Pop Malevolence here. Start Rapturing. Watch the damage climb again. 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, give or take. And if you have more mobs in here, I mean, like, you're flaring up even more Withers, right? You're getting more Vial-Taint value, more Rapture value. A jackpot procs here. Damage climbing again here as well. Honestly, it's solid. And in an M+, if these mobs die with these UAs in them from the jackpot, you get those shards back. So quite often, when you go into a pack and you Dark Lair, say at 8-9 pack pull or mob pull, you Dark Lair and apply UA to 3 other mobs, so you have 4 rolling. Those mobs typically die a little faster than later mobs. So you get those shards coming in with the remaining mobs that didn't have UAs in them at like 30%. You can keep Rapturing later on into the pack and then drain those mobs down towards the end. I'm AFK. I'm at 5.6. Look at my damage. I'm sustaining 5.5 million on my hands off my keyboard. Like, yeah. So, UA isn't too bad either. I believe this is the tier set right here, 5.7, depending on procs, RNG. The burst looks good. The problem, though, comes from when you don't have Soul Rot, or like every window, right? Like, for example, if you're pulling a trash pack like this, you full CD everything, whatever. Like, you full CD, whatever, nuke everything down, and then when that pack dies so fast, because you dump the whole world into it damage-wise, you're going to the next pack with just a Vial-Taint and like no Soul Rot, no Dark Lair, and Malevolence is on cooldown, you're doing tank damage. So obviously planning your routes out, having a better idea of what packs being pulled when will benefit AF. I mean, arguably more than Destro and Demo because they're more consistent. They have shorter CDs and Cataclysm into CDF into general range spam with Havoc, and Demo just has everything that cleaves, right? So, but the damage for AF's burst feels very, very strong at M+. It might be one of the highest bursting classes. I outburst the Fire Mage earlier when they had PI. Like, I mean, like by millions, right? The damage is solid. So we'll see where it goes. But as far as the raid's concerned, I gotta make a new tier list, I guess, next week for M+, and maybe the raid too. But if you're a fan of AF, these are big buffs. So like always, thanks for watching, guys. It wraps it up, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you're a fan of AF, then you can rejoice because these buffs today are pretty big. These are some of the biggest buffs I've seen for any spec in a long time. It should have happened earlier in PTR, but hey, you know, it is what it is. We have them now, and it might change things a bit heading into PTR week and, well, the actual raid launching. If you guys want any week awards or add-ons or profiles, it's all in the video. Links to Twitch, as well as Discord and all stuff up here, as well as down below, if you want them. Also, the Warlock PTR spreadsheet, it's on Patreon for early access, will be coming out publicly, probably tomorrow, whenever I get around to posting it. So there's that. But if you want to support on Patreon, you can do that up here, as well as down below. And thank you a million times, like every video, to all my supporters out there on Patreon and everything. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for all the support. Hey, AF's buff. So if you're an AF enjoyer, then, you know, this is the, I guess, late PTR patch for you. I do think you might see a mix of Destro and AF in the raid still. Like I said, this is going to skew things towards AF a good bit. AF quality of life, not as good as Destro. If Destro flows a lot better, but in the end, if it does a lot more damage in the fights you want it, you might end up playing it. So thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton. I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.